I don't like Is the read AI yours or no?
No, it's abs. Why is it in here?
I don't know. I'm trying to see if I can remove
I
it.
already did.
Okay, cool. We do have an agenda, right?
No, I don't do my job.
I figured you don't. So I'm
Send me a
still here.
message.
You haven't put me out of my job yet, so you're failing. Hey, Robin.
Hey there.
Thanks for making the time.
So, just be limited. I have a hard cutoff at in 15.
No problem. Hopefully we can get
Okay.
right to business.
No worries. We'll give 2-3 minutes for people to join. Hey, Nick. Do you prefer Nicholas Hennon or Nick? Or
Nicholas.
Nicholas?
Nick in French, it means fuck, So,
Okay.
so
I won't do that. It's kind of like in Hindi. So in Texas, there's a lot of Spanish names. Raquel was my boss at one point, and my wife was wondering what I was calling her because it's a really bad word in Hindi.
So you're Fanny, which
Fanny?
is it's the first name in France. That's the same stuff.
Hi, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite business example was there's a vacuum cleaner company in Europe that tried to come to the US not knowing the redundancy in the language or the different meaning connotations. And their tagline was, "Our product sucks," as in it sucks in, but they didn't realize that meant it was lame. So they rebranded after a couple months with low sales.
Funny. That's a funny one. But also, just the fact that you do remember this one makes it good again.
Yeah, it's a good marketing, actually.
Yeah. Well, there's one I sent to Jack when he was trying to come up with Intersect branding a while back. That was it was free water. It was a tagline if I could find it, but the way you mentally read it was fart free water, because it was a weird way that they wrote the letters in different ways to try and make it like a monogram in a way. I'll see if I can find the image to that, but super funny. Yeah, here we go. They archived it. Never mind. Yeah, here we go. I'll drop the link there. Do you mind? It's a Reddit post, but super funny, bad marketing. Hey, Uday. Hey, Moritz.
There is someone on Twitter with the tag f.art in the community.
I know if they do that in USA, but like in France, sometimes you have the name of a village or something, like close to another meaning. And what they do is like there's that board, when you enter a village, they change it to some stuff that are funny most of the time, and they take picture, in front of it. Something that we do.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. We do have our quorum here. I was actually just waiting for one more because Robin said he's going to have to leave in a few minutes, but we will still have 5. And now we have Lucas here as well. So again, welcome everybody to the Open Source Committee meeting here, Thursday, October 14th, 2024. I'm going to run things just for the moment. I did go over this with Adam. Adam is the vice chair. We have Lucas here, who is the chair of the Open Source Committee. That was voted on or elected on last week. I have the meeting minutes, which are going to go up momentarily here. If y'all would like for me to share those before I do, I can, or you can just review those and let me know if you have any issues asynchronously. Questions, comments, or concerns on the meeting minutes? I see Adam here as well. Okay, so it looks like everyone's catching on, but of course, if you are a seat on the committee, please do make sure to put your affiliations in and or any conflict of interest, and that's really just your name, your position, where you work, and again, if there's anything additional. All right, go ahead and pull up the agenda here. So we're going to go back to a little bit of the old business, new business was the suggestion. So as far as the old business is concerned, we're going to look at trying to finalize the charter draft. We've had that out in async. We will confirm the meeting cadence for the end of the year. I know that in the last meeting, we talked about maybe not having a meeting on the 19th, but considering that we would be probably closer to 6 weeks away, you know, that's still a potential, or we can kind of talk or make a decision on that here. Because we'll be off for 3 weeks as it stands currently after today's meeting. We'll go over any budget questions or concerns if they're out there, what the process looks like for those on the committee to kind of give their final approval on everything that we have. That way we know we're good to publicize or socialize what we're talking about, and I'll give some additional updates there. And then if we have some time, or Christian, if you have any updates, we'll look at any updates on the legal restriction from a developer perspective. New business, there's some things that I wanted to bring in here as far as tooling, but we also want to give the committee members an opportunity. Basically, we'll introduce it here and provide you the documents asynchronously. We want to get the committee's review on the contribution ladder and the acceptance criteria for project incubation. If we have more time, of course, we'll get to any other business. I can continue to lead, or Adam or Lucas, if y'all feel comfortable, you can jump in here. Just let me know.
Hi guys, I'm dialing in from a convention on the phone, so it's harder for me to do that. So I'll just sit in most of the time.
No trouble. I'll keep it moving.
Thank you.
First up is the charter, and so this is what we have currently. Let me go ahead and drop this link now. Just be aware this link is only going to be accessible by those that are sitting on the committee. So if you are a community attendee, please don't come yelling at me. But yeah, let's see. Here we go. Give everyone a minute or two to get in here and kind of catch up to where we were. I'd added some different things for operating procedures so that we can define that a little bit better. But we do just need to expand upon this. Not sure if this is something that we can quickly get done here, or if we need to push this off again. I think we'd still have some flexibility, but I'll leave that up to the committees. Again, I'm not the committee seats or the chairs, if you will. I'm just a secretary, so I have no voting power. I just do what y'all tell me, but let me know what we're thinking.
Can you quickly run through the sections? We might be able to try and get some consensus.
Sure. Does anybody have any issues with the intro section here as far as the definition of what the open source committee does, what the open source committee is responsible for, or the last statement which I added in, which is how the open source committee would act? I don't want to force anybody to speak. If we're still reading, it's fine. I'm not here to pressure anybody, but give me some reactions or pop in and tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah, from my side, I I have no problem with the current state of the document. I asked for the inclusion of collaboration and among projects, just for giving people the freedom of act according to their own operative feelings, and that was included, and I'm fine with that. So that's I think it's, in my opinion, it's safe enough to try. Thanks.
I think on the oversight of paid and maintainership program, just put TBD, pending budget. If there's no money, there's no paid maintainership program to oversee. Or you could just put it as budget allocation altogether rather than just paid maintainership.
I won't argue with that.
Grammatical observation. Is responsible for provide, managing, evaluate, oversight. It's switching back and forth between one thing or the other. So would it be providing, evaluating, managing? Managing, overseeing.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. Kind of replace evaluation, the output, to managing. Or what was the word? Start with an O.
Overseeing.
Yeah, there we go.
Overseeing again, I guess, or different word. Oh, that's good. Providing oversight. And then, yeah, completing yearly, conducting.
Do we want this unformatted, or would you guys rather see bullets or dashes?
I'm a dashes kind of guy. Which isn't an option.
What about arrows?
Sorry, it's a question. The project support service include the several programs, for example, the incubator program.
The incubation program is the
incubation.
later half of that. Yeah, it's where any projects that submit themselves has to come to the OSC for review. And there's some working group recommendations that'll go on that to help inform the committee. And then once they pass here, they have to go to the TSC for alignment, then they get included. Is the draft idea right now, if everyone has consensus with that.
Okay.
I think I have a graphic on it. Let me see if I can find that.
Can we say overseas, or do we still need to stay with the ing for everything?
I was trying to decide that myself. Does it become it doesn't work. It doesn't work if you have the word responsible for. If you say responsible for overseas, it doesn't make grammatical sense. So I think it has to stay ing.
Well, I mean, we can just take all that out, right?
Yeah, well then you could have the OSC responsibilities, and then you could change it from ing all the way.
I don't know. I guess I have a thing with ing.
Just responsibilities. Yeah. As long as it's consistent, I don't care which direction.
Quick question for you, Adam, if you're still on. Did our voting policy cover also the votes just in the OSC in general, or was it only on elections?
Technically, it's only like for project management that we were writing that policy, but I mean, the same rules work essentially. But we probably want to specify them separately here in the charter of the committee itself.
Okay, because we could put a little reference link to that if we wanted to.
If anything, we could just refer to that, refer to the voting policy here in the charter as a derivative, but of what that larger policy is. As standard expectation, it's one member, one vote, and the typical fashion is by consensus. And so I think that's all that's necessary, again, unless the group is deciding otherwise, which is totally fine. But, other working groups and even other committees are transitioning to, or I say transitioning, they're wanting to use or accepting the use of like a Google form to actually conduct and have tracked voting. Obviously, we have full record and transparent notes and minutes, so I don't think that that's something that we've had to get to. But if that's something that we would choose to align with, or y'all would want to choose to align with, that's again another possibility.
And one vote, that kind of system there is some kind of way to include some different voting system. For example, including some, not only one voter, one vote, but I don't know, maybe systems based on seeing objections in some kind of decision, and if you don't find objections, you can proceed. Some alternatives.
Yeah, so
I'm fine with
that's
that.
what the lazy consensus is considered the default, unless otherwise specified in the project management document. So
Yeah,
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with any system that we put in place, but just to know that we have some kind of other choices or options. Thanks.
It's
okay. I know we're talking down the page. Do we have anything else on this first section, or is everyone happy with that?
I'm happy with it.
Sandy?
Happy.
Here, one thing that I would really like is to have the open source landscape, at least to be that somewhere mentioned. I think that could be good to have also within the committee, at least overseeing or at least contributing to that.
That's actually a good point.
Others think.
So I mean, right now it's a working group. Where this is listed now is that it's at a very high level. That's not to say that the libraries or management thereof would not be at that same high level, but I would suggest proposing that to the rest. I mean, we have your request and Christian's agreement. What does everyone else think about listing the management of open source libraries, or whatever term you want to use for open source libraries in that working group? Do we want that to be in the high level responsibilities?
Can you show that link I just put there real fast, text, just to show everyone what we're trying to do for context? Similarly, we forked a repository from the CNCF, and we're trying to do this for Intersect, where it shows you projects and products, and it's business cards and a YAML file you do, and then it does it for the members of the organization as well as the accreditation program for based on service providers. That's just high-level summary. That's what that working group's working on right now.
Anybody have an issue with us listing that as a high level responsibility?
What are we saying that the committee itself is going to be responsible for?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's under a working group, but the working group is to create this. So in the beyond, it would be the responsibility of the committee to ensure that it's maintained properly. Yeah.
And how does one go about this? You said it's a YAML file?
Yeah, I'll find the repository for you. We got an instance set up for it, but there's a lot of configurations that still need to go, so it's not live. But it will be an open source library that anybody can enter stuff in, and maybe it's the OSC appoints a maintainer associated with our review of what's included, what's not. And it might not just be us, but other committees that may also interact with it. But it just could be the committee's responsibility to ensure that someone takes care of it.
Well, I think this already falls under some of the other bullets that we already have. So adding something explicitly just for this, when this could also get sunset and retired if it's not being utilized, doesn't make sense to add to the charter explicitly.
That was my question. Thanks, Adam. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you want to keep this. Give me a thumbs down if we say remove it, please.
Can I share the document?
Yeah,
again,
can you
please?
switch your screen back to the document instead of
I'm so sorry.
Thanks.
Thought I'd already done that.
Yeah, maybe maintain Intersect's open source policies, but consistent updates. If the policies are good, we don't need to update them just for the sake of hitting a metric. So it's not that the updates need to be consistent. It's that we need to maintain specifically the open source policies.
Well, I think we're 5 votes for it, so it's just language, maybe.
Is there a more broad term that could incorporate it? Are there going to be other things like this, or is it just this that needs maintained?
It's just this will be specific to Intersect. And I think if you put a committee in charge of it and make sure there's a place to go to if you want included, etc. Cindy?
Here, one reason for having this is if somebody asks about the open source ecosystem within Cardano, it would be nice to just point it here and show it. Like everything is represented here is the landscape. So under OSC, if we have that maintained and make sure that it is maintained, I think that would be good to have.
How was the existing one built? Was it built by people just knowing things, or did people have to submit? Did people submit their own logos? Did people go find the logos? What was the methodology to get it created? And what would be the methodology to make sure it is maintained? How would we keep an eye on new open source projects popping up? And would there be an open process for people to submit their own things to the YAML file through GitHub?
That's the way that I see it. Either you can contact someone to submit it for you, and it comes in as a PR and it gets reviewed. But the submission process, we need to figure out who approves what gets included, but it is open in that regard.
Yeah, just the use of those logos makes me a bit nervous in case, well, I suppose if they're open source, there's not going to be trademark issues.
Yeah, well, and that's where they can provide the resources, and we can just do quick KYC to make sure there's no liability on our end for just listing it. Something like that. But I believe the CNCF created it because they have so many thousands of integrators, and it helps you navigate what company you're looking for, their profiles, projects they're working on, and if you need a service who has merit, quote unquote, to actually work with Kubernetes.
And why are some larger than the others? I saw that there was notes underneath them. Is it direct involvement or connection to Intersect in some way that makes them bigger?
That I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what the configuration is of that right now. I haven't touched a YAML file in a while, so I'm taking a quick
I was looking at the YAML file. It's interesting because like some seem to be viewed as bigger than others, and I wonder what the reasoning is.
Well,
if we're gonna maintain it, I'm trying to work out what the logic is.
Yeah.
Well, let's not get bogged down in the weeds of this platform here, because this is showing somebody else's ecosystem and this one particular tool that we may adopt and use. So
does anybody have a preference as to landscape or ecosystem, or even ecosystem landscape? I feel like that's a duplication of the words, but maybe it's not.
I would say ecosystem.
Yeah.
Here, probably mapping is the important word. I mean, maintaining Intersect Cardano OS ecosystem.
Well, there's already a map that came from IO. What we're talking about is we're using the CNCF tool to show that in our own way. I mean, we'd be redesigning it a little bit, but creating our own purpose of it. So
is this yet again a bullet point specifically dedicated to showing that dashboard, and that we are going to, like, because I didn't sign up to like be a dashboard manager as part of the open source committee, like give that to a working group, give that to Sebastian or Johnny or something. Like, this is not a committee kind of like responsibility.
That's where I agree with
the committee appoints someone to do it, if that makes sense. So it's not the committee itself that manages it, but just ensures someone is managing it. Maybe.
Oh, I thought it was us, which is why I got so bogged down in it.
No, that's what Adam was trying to suggest, and what I agreed with is that this point here is rendered useless because it falls under working groups.
Right, and it's also
a working group too.
Providing strategic direction and input on our open source initiatives and policies. Like, it's covered in multiple other places that if we want this tool, we will continue to have this tool somehow. But I don't believe giving the committee a mandate that this piece of software must continue to exist makes sense.
Should we do one more vote? Hands in the chat.
What is the vote?
Yeah, what is the proposal?
Do we want to remove this line?
Yeah, do we say it's already included, or do we keep the wording, essentially? So yes, keep the bullet point. No, it's included in something else already.
That's the opposite. Okay, so hands up to keep, not hands up to remove.
I'm pretty sure it's clear that we want to just remove this at this point because it's covered under the other topics.
If it's already, in my opinion, if it's already covered, it's already covered. Remove.
Okay. Anything else on this section before I move forward? Okay. So, goals of the committee. This one's a little bit longer here. Not We have open, quality, sustainability, and citizenship. Let me just do this here. Hang on just a second. Fix the formatting later. I don't want to make that too hard to see though. There we go. That's all of it.
Yeah, Moritz's point here is a good one. We're not maintaining the security and health of mainnet in any way, shape, or form by managing open source policy. The health of mainnet is strictly up to the validators running nodes and software.
Yeah, we did create the Security Council already, and now it's kind of become their responsibility in a way, as well as OSPOs already.
I suppose the question becomes, how do you actually achieve the goals within the committee? And if it can't be achieved, it shouldn't be listed.
One thing about the quality, it was also quality of the code. And because that's the
Right.
code that runs the mainnet. It's not the health of the mainnet itself or the network itself, but the quality of the code or the software.
But we're also not the technical steering committee. Like, so our responsibility is to ensure the code remains open and free, not judge based on like whether or not good quality commits are coming in.
My suggestion, maybe we get rid of the term goals and put core values of the committee and copy what's in the strategy and just reword the maintain to promote, as Lucas was suggesting. We promote the security and health of Cardano, i.e. just following up to make sure those things are in place in some form or fashion. Because I think also the goal, this charter, the old format was written before we had a strategy, so we reworded goals and core values, quote unquote.
Oh, why do we have 2 bullets for quality now? Like, what are we doing here?
I was suggesting something different because we talked about removing this altogether, but I was changing the terminology because we talked about core values. So it can go either way. It can stay as goals and we build off of this one, which is a suggestion, or we can go to the core values and we can promote stuff. It's open. So I guess let's ask it this way. Start with either goals or values. What do we want to call this?
I would say core values. That way they stay constant and you don't have to re-update them unless the OSC sees to it. If you call it goals, that implies change repeatedly.
Okay.
I think we have
Yeah.
group consensus on that.
Yeah, removing goals removes the need to make sure that the statements have to be things that are met. Values, if you know what I mean. Obviously, we want to meet our values, but I'm saying there's not an explicit agenda.
Yeah, the strategy should be where all those changes are taking place. Whereas the charter is something you look at once a year, maybe.
Okay.
How will we go about promoting the security and health of the Cardano mainnet? What will be our methodology on that?
Well, we own the security policy.
Well, that's a good reason.
Yeah. So, and then the Security Council fulfills that policy essentially in line with the TSC.
Nice. Okay. Well,
And we
then
make
it
sure
gives-
there's a security MD in every project. So there you go.
it has relevance then. That's
Yeah.
good.
Other point about quality is if from Intersect, if we have say Cardano node and the quality of software isn't good, then we should be able to say that that's not something that we can approve of. So the quality has to be there for the software that are there within this ecosystem, open source ecosystem that goes on the mainnet. So
This will be-
quality has to be promoted, and we should have that standard that we are there for always for high quality software.
This will get very interesting once we get to multiple languages of node software.
Right. Well, and the other question is how and what is the open source committee doing? Like everybody wants a good high quality piece of software, but what are we doing to actually take action if it isn't a high quality piece of software, or to say that it is? We're not reviewing the pull requests and approving releases. Is not part of the remit of this committee, is my concern there.
We're also not auditing code itself.
Right.
Yeah, but we could have a policy within that, like the audits, both the software audits and the security audits could be there.
Yeah,
What
so
kind of
that is a
audits?
potential, like the mandating that audits must be performed in some cadence or something to be part of the contribution letter.
The good thing is that does come under the wording promote the security.
Yeah, if I may too, I think Hyperledger also, mind you, it comes from their TOC, but they go through annual performance reviews, and maybe we partner with the TSC to do something similar for projects, where there's an evaluation of some kind or audit function. And that would fall on me and Tex to try and figure out how to execute it, I guess, depending on y'all's requirements.
So we're getting down to about just over 20 minutes left, and we inadvertently have a rather packed agenda. So I'm going to ask again if this is something where everyone can devote some time to make some comments and get this in a point where we can agree to it, maybe on the 12th of December or prior, if we want to just agree to it async. But I don't even know that 20 minutes is enough for us to finish all the level of detail right now, but we can do it that way if you want. Lucas?
Hi, everyone. Let me know if you can't hear me okay. I'm sorry about the, yeah. So I just wanted to point out on screen we have something that reads the COSP is more than a collection of GitHub repositories, but then it basically says it is a repository and doesn't add much more. That's one of the points I'm going to make a note to try to review and suggest a bit more if you agree that maybe something is missing there. And what I would see as missing there would be networking with the community and that kind of diligences. So the human side of what we're maintaining. Does that make sense? Okay, then I also had one thing, or actually two, that I wanted to bring to your attention. I'm not sure if this is the point, so let me know. Maybe we can save like 10 minutes in the end. It's just related to partner chains.
We might be able to cover that in the tooling section if we can get there. So I don't know that we'll have 10 minutes for it, but we'll do the best we can.
Cheers.
Okay. We've been pretty disjointed async. That not against any one in particular person, but can we all agree to try and devote some more time to this? 10, 15, maybe as much as 30 minutes a day kind of thing, as needed? Okay. Back to the agenda then. So this one here, I'll just cover it real quick as far as meeting cadence. When I spoke with Adam on Tuesday, I think we had talked more to having a meeting on the 19th of December. That's 1 week after the 12th, because right now, again, we're going on a 3-week break. And then after the 12th, it would be 19, 26 or so. And then obviously the week of the 1st, there'll be another 3-week break in between. So we can meet back to back on the 12th and the 19th, and then just have a 2-week break until we come back on, I think it's the 9th, or we can just have the one meeting on the 12th. Is there anybody right now that knows of a blockage for December 19th, or should we meet? Yeah, Adam.
I would advocate that we schedule a meeting for the 19th, and if we can get the budget and the charter and everything finalized by the 12th, then maybe we can say that we don't need it. But I would like to have some of these old business items kind of fully completed by the end of the year, so that we can go into the new year with strictly new business and maybe kind of move forward from these things that seem to keep bogging us down.
Understood. We'll make it happen.
I'd have no objection to a 19th scheduled meeting.
Okay. Has everyone, to include newly elected committee members, had a chance to review the budget in any additional detail? Does anybody have any questions or concerns? The only one that I can mention right now is that I am going to have a conversation with MCC probably later today regarding how the education and outreach bucket is administered. There's a potential that that budget may move under the MCC, but we would still administer that task. So that's the only thing that's up for debate, if you will, but that lessens our budget, not adding anything to it. Aside from that, any questions?
The only concerns I have around budget is when will things be made fully public for people to know, but obviously things are shifting, as you say, so it's hard to get that down to a point where the public outside of committees and working groups can actually see these things. But beyond that, I'm okay.
It was my understanding that I was going to join an AMA today to go over it. And it's just from a proposal perspective, no numbers would be shared. I'm prepared to do that if and when it takes place, but I did not receive confirmation in the last 24 hours that was happening. So it would likely be sometime next week, but I will put a message out there as soon as I know when it's happening. And if it does happen today for whatever reason, I will apologize for that being last minute.
Idea, would the committee be open to do an ad hoc call to go over the budget with people in public? Do Twitter space or something?
I'm happy with that myself.
What's the end of next week looking like for everybody? I'm not trying to take us week by week by week, but just that we're still in the timeline here. I want to do something like Tuesday or like Thursday or Friday.
I would prefer Tuesday. I travel Wednesday. Thursday I'm at the LF, and Friday I travel back. But if y'all can do it without me, I'm not a blocker by any means.
I have back-to-back meetings on Tuesday and an appointment.
Same.
Okay. I'll put Tex on the hot seat for any of my ideas.
Does anyone have a preference as to whether it's a Google Meet or an X Space?
I think maybe Google Meet is better to share screens if necessary. Go over the complete thing.
That'll work. And then that way I can have it recorded and that can go on YouTube as well, which was part of the plan. So I will try to get something out there. If you guys just in the next 24 to 48 can drop in any blockers, I might put something in temporarily, but we'll just move and adjust as need be. Okay. Christian, do you have any updates on legal restrictions, or is that just a conversation that hasn't happened yet?
It's happened, but there's not consensus necessarily to what I found out as to what's being used. Someone thought we used FATF, which I think just restricts Iran, North Korea, and something else. And then there's a mention that we have to follow Wyoming's OFAC. But we're pointed into the membership agreement might actually have the cadence on that. So I'll get more clarity on that. But right now, there isn't 100% thing, but everyone was concerned when they saw the LF thing. So I'll figure that out. Again.
Adam or Lucas, anything else to cover on old business, or are we good to move forward?
Nope, nothing I can think of.
Okay. New business, Adam, you brought up a potential tooling discussion, and Lucas, you wanted to talk about partner chains. Whoever wants to go first, but we got 15 minutes. So
go ahead and let Lucas go. I can always kind of work my thoughts more in the new year when we're setting new policies.
Okay, thanks. This may be quick, and maybe we can get to the other point. As you may know, I'm also constitutional delegate, and I wanted to bounce this off you. There was a point we had a synthesis session this weekend around, it was one of the tenets on the Constitution that read something like Cardano blockchain will promote the adoption or collaboration with partner chains. So what I wanted to bounce off you is that we agreed to remove the term partner chains, and we wanted to reword the term promote. And if you agree, what I'll do is I'll draft something to suggest there. We have another synthesis coming on this coming weekend. So I'll draft something. And the reason I'm talking to you about this is I feel that instead of promote, to maintain openness, which I feel aligns a lot with the values that we were discussing on our previous call here, I think it would be an opportunity for the open source values to be represented in the Constitution. So I just wanted to loop you into this and get any feedback that you may have.
my one call out is that we have a partner chains technical working group. If this needs to be a larger conversation, we can set up something separate, or we can try to get them to a place where they can come and approach the committee if need be. But obviously at this point, our next committee meeting is not until after the Constitution is finalized. So I personally, as a community member, don't see any issues with the promotion of partner chains, but if partner chains being removed entirely, I would, I guess, agree that that's a detail that we don't need to specify at the Constitution level. But
it's also something that isn't guaranteed to always be a thing. So, like, why put it in the Constitution, like the founding document, the document that declares the rules and tenets? There might be some change to the methodology, and then you've got this old thing in the Constitution that can't be upheld.
Right. So the term partner chains is being removed because it was heavily debated and agreed upon to remove. What I'm asking here is a bit more that basically the workflow that I propose is I'll draft something, I'll drop it on our forum and chat and ask for any reviews. But basically it's the effect of saying instead of promoting partner chains, we are going to promote openness in the core repos, and let's say speaking a bit more broader than that.
Yeah.
And that would be a way to represent the open source mentality.
Yeah. That's much better because then it's
Multipliability,
more
that
generic.
That sentence
Okay.
that you're referring to, Lucas, you can just stop at saying Cardano shall support interoperability, period, full stop, because partner change is already included in that. So I'm very aware of exactly which sentence of the Constitution you're referring to. And so we can essentially just drop the and partner change from that, and it kind of solves the entire problem. So that would be my approach, because I think we will obviously, as the open source committee, as long as somebody's open source about it, support any bridge building to any other ecosystems as necessary.
Okay, so I wanted to just use the terminology of openness as well. That's why I was suggesting I draft something and drop it on our channel so that you guys can thumbs up or down and that kind of thing. So if you agree, that will be it on that topic. On a ironically related topic, just yesterday I was in Lisbon in a midnight event where they were launching features and progressing their thing. I was talking with their developer experience person for a while, and he told me that for now they're not open source, but they will be they'll be gradually opening their code. So I asked already for him to share a roadmap of that and to keep it in our radar, and I'll be updating you as that relationship progresses and have more info. Okay.
I think this goes to your need for the word promoting to be in there, because if there's going to be conflict with a mandate for openness in the Constitution, then promotion of, or advocating for, is better than the need for openness. Because if there's going to be projects like you just mentioned that haven't done that yet and are on their way towards it, then they would be at odds with the Constitution, which would be a negative. So if you do want to put that in, then absolutely you'd have to put promotion of or advocation for. But Adam, your thoughts?
Let's wait and see. I don't want to get. I mean, we can spend an entire meeting or probably an entire day discussing the Constitution and still not arrive at any hard and fast rules. So, Lucas, go ahead and write up what you think, and then maybe it'll be easier to provide some feedback and either support and or criticism based on having that more well fleshed out thought.
Right, but on this second remark I made, I wasn't talking about the Constitution anymore. I was just saying I'll keep you in the loop as I get the roadmap from Midnight around becoming more open source, so we could basically liaise with them around that and support that process.
Yeah, and that's where we do already have the contribution ladder and a lot of the other and the project incubation policy that Christian has already been working on throughout 2024. So basically, if people, that's kind of where my discussion on tooling was going to be, is if we have an external project in the ecosystem that becomes kind of mission critical, think of things like Lucid historically, that should have been kind of moved into a more community maintainership position. How do we do that over time? So how do we kind of work from where they are right now into where we need them to be for Intersect to take over, or to help out, provide financial support, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely something that we need to work on. But I think that's going to be more new business for the new year, when we can really have the committee just kind of focused in that direction.
And if anyone's not familiar with that, explainer videos right there for the different pieces Adam's talking to.
Adam, are you free at 9:30 by chance, or do you have a conflict?
Today, as in
Correct.
an hour and a half from now.
Correct.
Yes, or 9:30
No.
California time.
9:30 your time.
9:30 my time is an hour and a half from now.
2.5 from now is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at 12:30 Central.
Yeah, I'm in Arizona, so we're Mountain Standard Time all the time. So we don't daylight saving. So you guys all move around us, and we stay.
Sorry, 11:30. I said the complete wrong time. 11:30 your time.
That is the most American thing I've heard in a while.
It's the most Arizona thing that you'll ever hear. Okay, that's why Arizona's better than Texas. There, Christian. But let's
your
not get into
daylight
that.
savings time.
Let's not get into that argument again. But yeah, I'm free. So shoot me an invite text and we're good.
Yeah, I'm going to pull you into something. Okay. Back to the agenda here. Christian, do you want to share a link for contribution ladder and the acceptance criteria?
Yep. Sorry, I was putting in a poll to remove our Arizona resident. I think I put it in the chat in the open source committee channel. We do have 2 docs and there's explainer videos on them. I'll drop them in this chat too. So the life cycle framework is already been reviewed. If there's any additions we want to make, we can do that. What the project incubation acceptance criteria is actually trying to define the different levels projects have to go through to be classified within those remits. And then the contribution ladder is how we're trying to determine the criteria of merit, for lack of a better word, for contributions and identifying core maintainers of projects and how you get there. And that will help build classification criteria for our funding mechanism for the paid open source model. That way it's not just anyone in anything, it's people who have established themselves or are establishing themselves or mission critical projects that qualify for that. So that's my proposal to y'all. We can mitigate this or rework it any form or fashion. I just wanted to have a good solid baseline to start from, but I'll leave that to y'all's review. I do recommend watching the videos first and then getting into the docs. It'll summarize a lot of your headache trying to do it. Any questions?
I have watched the videos previously, and it's quite interesting the methodology of this. And as you say, there's standards to different levels, and it needs to be properly laid out for people to get confirmation that they have the required level to get the support. I will read the documents entirely, though.
Yep. And this is just based off best practice from other foundations. And the acceptance criteria is probably going to be the most political item in it because that's the definition for how you're quantifying everything. And even Solana, who is a previous open source expert, didn't want to touch it because it's going to be convoluted. So. Yeah,
just for reference, the contribution ladder is a little bit more complete than maybe the acceptance criteria, but please feel free to give any level of feedback that you can via the comments. That way we can address it accordingly. Anything else?
More, I'm just going to put it in the Discord and the open source Slack. That way it's there. My copy and paste is limited in this chat.
Yeah, do we have a central drive or like a document that would cross-link all these other documents that maybe we can pin to one of these channels so that there's something that could just be updated and a common or bookmarked as a common centralized source?
I will get the G drive posted and pinned for you there, but however you all access Google, if you go to shared with me, you should see open source committee as a shared drive folder. And that's what's got the documents, and everyone should have access to that. So,
and if it's not there, it's my fault and Tex will fix it. So,
all right. Sounds like a plan.
Anything pressing in the last 3 minutes? Okay. I will send out some pulse checks here, especially if I don't see any comments, additions, or edits in the charter doc. But gonna try to push all 3, the contribution ladder, the acceptance criteria, and the charter doc over the next 3 weeks. So I appreciate there's some holidays, but y'all see some pings, and if at least you can react, let me know that did remind you to go and look at it if you were not already. I would appreciate that.
Thank
you. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.